Welcome back to the program, everyone. I just couldn't resist. I had to come back and talk with you a little bit about these Disney earnings, which were just released moments ago. Kind of a mixed bag here, but I'm going to tell you the biggest headline of all, and what you need to remember here is that this company's streaming business, the streaming business that is so important to its future, its success, one would think, that is what is struggling the most. As I look at these numbers coming into us right now, the subs that they have lost there are pretty significant. We're talking about a 7.4% decline in the number of subscribers there to Disney Plus. This is pretty shocking. They have 146.1 million that they have there at Disney Plus. Again, a loss of 7.4% from the previous quarter when they'd lost a whole bunch back then. So the second time in a row, Disney as a company is losing subs in its streaming business that they had put so much behind, right? That was supposed to be such a key to its success. Well, maybe that was the former CEO. Bob Iger now taking over for the other Bob doesn't seem to be as enthusiastic about it. Seems to be wanting to have a more cost-focused effort there on those streaming costs. They've got some restructuring costs that they're dealing with there as a result of some of the disappointments they've had, et cetera. But here's, as you sort of look through this, here's one that caught my eye. Hotstar, Disney Plus Hotstar, which I didn't even know about. Do you know Hotstar? I've never even heard of it. This may explain why it had a 24% drop in users after it lost out apparently on the rights to Indian Premier League cricket matches. Well, that's probably why I don't know. It's an international aspect of them, and cricket matches were apparently the key to all that. So they've got dwindling users effectively. People are not as interested in Disney's content. And if you're a streaming business, it's kind of like, you're in the content game. That's all you got is content. So if you can't actually bring people in with that, then you've got issues. They also cracked down on password sharing. So that affected things. But so did Netflix. And interestingly, though Netflix lost people initially, Netflix picked up pretty substantially from that. So it's not like Disney could say, oh, well, Netflix has this problem, so do we. Sorry, Netflix doesn't have that problem anymore, guys, and you still do. Second quarter in a row. It's the first time this has ever happened. So that's kind of a big deal. Shares of Disney at present right now, as we look at the after hours market, they're up a bit. Maybe people figure it could have been worse. One of the highlights in all of this was the Parks and Recreation business, which surprisingly did a little bit better than people had anticipated. Nonetheless, this is a company that's looking at a quarterly net loss. So they're still facing some pretty serious challenges. I mean, such significant challenges that's partly why they had to get the new CEO, who was actually the old CEO, talking about Bob Iger, back into the seat because things were deteriorating so significantly. Of course, they got other things going on. They got the writer's strike, etc. But I'll tell you, Bob Iger is trying to stream this business somewhat and get it more focused on its core product, if it can figure out what that is. Because again, if content is your product, but consumers do not like your content, which we see over and over again with Disney. And there's this whole woke thing going on that nobody seems to be able to negotiate properly. Whether it's Bud Light, Fox News, or Disney, they all got problems on that front. Anyway, Bob Iger speaking recently about what he wants to do with some of these legacy businesses, TV businesses, which is very good news for anyone who really doesn't like this woman. I will play you first the woman I'm talking about. That would be Whoopi Goldberg and some of her friends over at The View. And then we'll hear what Bob Iger has to say about their business. Watch.
Oh, there is breaking news. We just learned that who has received a letter from special counsel Jack Smith notifying him that he's a target in the DOJ's grand jury probe of efforts to overturn the 2020 election. Lawmakers.
She's really happy. She's celebrating with all her friends. Well, she may not be celebrating for long. In all seriousness, you look at these earnings here, $22.33 billion in revenue versus 22.5 that had been expected. This decline in Disney Plus total subscriptions, and then this little whopper from Bob Iger, who told CNBC's David Faber not so long ago he's looking to sell off those TV businesses. That would include the ladies at The View. Watch.
Transformative work is dealing with businesses that are no-growth businesses and what to do about them, and particularly the linear business, which we are expansive in our thinking about, and we're going to look expansively about opportunities there because clearly it's a business that is going to continue to struggle.
Well, let's stop there for a second then and let me ask you about it. We're talking, I guess, ABC, the network, the stations, but then the cable networks as well.
Yes, correct.
FX, Nat Geo. Is it possible you would look to sell them?
We're going to be expensive. I think if you can interpret what that word means.
All right, I'll interpret it for you. Expansive, meaning we are expansive in our thinking. We are expansive thinking about how we're going to sell off these businesses that aren't really profit centers anymore. In the meantime, we got to figure out what to do with Disney Plus. So Disney swung to a net loss of $460 million or 25 cents a share for the quarter ending July 1st from a net income of $1.41 billion or 77 cents per share during a year ago period. So they're losing money instead of earning money. Excluding those impairments, the company earned an adjusted $1.03 per share. So they had some restructuring costs, et cetera. If you work the numbers, maybe it's not as bad as it looks on the surface. And they do point, of course, to the bright spot being the parks and experiences division, which actually saw a 13% increase in revenue. One of the things, though, that shocked me, and I spoke about this earlier on the show, was that the answer somehow to the streaming business suffering so much is that they're just going to hike prices. They're going to do these major price hikes right across the board, and somehow that's going to fix it all. I don't think so. They're looking at hiking prices there at Hulu, also at Disney Plus. I mean, look, you do what you got to do, guys. I think the most important thing for you is to consider putting some better content into the content stream, right? The streaming business needs good content, and if you can't deliver on content, then nobody's going to pay the umpty-dump amount of dollars, whether it's $3 more or less than what it was last quarter. They're just not going to pay it. And so I think fundamentally that is the issue that Disney is dealing with. Again, great to see all of you here on this little live excerpt. I just wanted to bring you this news as it was just crossing. Pretty big deal. Make sure you subscribe if you haven't already. Do me the favor. I think the subscribe button is right over there on your left. Great to have you here. We'll talk some more tomorrow.